It's your boy DJ Hoffa. This is Faces of 518 podcast. I'm here with my beautiful co-host, America Ray. We got a special guest today, community advocate, owner of One Block at a Time. Dannielle Hille is in the building.
Hey.
What's going on, Dannielle?
Stuff. There's always stuff going on.
I know. Now, the funny thing is, how I first came in contact with you was there was an issue that you were speaking about on your Facebook Live that had to do with fireworks going on in your neighborhood, and I reached out to you to kind of understand your issues. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
That's one of the issues that that you were fighting for at the time. What prompted that, and what were you trying to achieve?
So fireworks, while they can be entertainment, are very dangerous in the hands of people who either don't know what they're doing or don't take into consideration people and property around them. I live in a row house. When we have a fire, we lose 5, 8, 10 houses at a time. Putting a lot of people out of their homes. People will set off fireworks near our cars, and just do reckless things. Along with the fact that, and this year was the worst of all of them for 4th of July. That there are just fireworks going off everywhere. You have babies that are trying to sleep. You have people that need to go to work. You have elderly people that are traumatized by it, and you have veterans who fought for us to have this country, who are transported back to a war zone that they had to endure. So having fireworks in the hands of just everybody creates a situation that is both dangerous and traumatizing to the community that it's in. And a lot of people don't take into consideration that their activities are negatively harming someone else. So great, you guys are having a party, you're throwing off fireworks, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, like you're only in your little bubble there, and you're not really considering that your fun is very detrimental to others around you. And last August, it wasn't a firework related, but we had just been through our second major fire since I've lived in the neighborhood. We lost 5 buildings. 7 of them were actually damaged. And it took like 24 hours to put the fire out. Displacing 14 families, many of which were children. And it actually also displaced the longest standing black family in the neighborhood. They were the first black family to own a house in that neighborhood, and that house burnt down. So it, knowing that any kind of fire in our neighborhood is, has such a significant impact, to see people shooting off fireworks in their backyard or in the middle of our street in a tree-lined neighborhood is, it's scary. It's scary for neighbors. It keeps everyone on pins and needles. Our poor pets you can't explain to your dog why it sounds like a war zone. It causes significant trauma to them because we can't explain things. So, the fun element outweighs the effects on the community. So, I worked towards and accomplished at least getting them out of hands of people here in Albany County, and hopefully, it'll follow suit with the rest of the state. I think that a fireworks show that's done by professionals is great. Everybody enjoys that. There's the dangers that fireworks have are greatly minimized by a professional. So having those just done by professionals, that's even more enjoyable, and you have something to look forward to, as opposed to popping off bottle rockets in your backyard, and potentially being the cause of somebody else's trauma.
You actually changed my perspective on it, because at first I was watching your live and I was like, she might be going a little bit overboard, until I thought about it, and until you actually spoke about the senior citizens, the pets. And then I realized that I have a daughter who doesn't like loud sounds at all. If I turn on the blender, she doesn't even like the fan in the bathroom blowing. So I thought about that and how, that could affect somebody, and that's what actually changed my view on it, and it made me realize that you could be fighting for a cause that's really real. Um, what is your background, and what got you into advocating and doing some of the things you do? Your organization is called One Block at a Time, right?
A block at a time.
A block at a time. Okay.
So I've worked in like a human services field pretty much my whole life, either with developmentally disabled or with the elderly. I've also worked with people through pretty much every portion of the legal system, up to and including wrongful convictions. And I moved to Albany 11 years ago to get my degree from UAlbany, and this actually all started over a tree. So there was a tree. There were two trees on my street, and there was this one tree in particular it was much too large for the street. It had lifted up all the sidewalk squares, and it had grown so close to the railings on one of the stairs that you couldn't push a baby cart, like a baby stroller, between the tree and the stairs. So you couldn't do that. You couldn't get a wheelchair down the sidewalk. Like those situations would require them to go out into the street. And like there's no curb cuts or anything, so they would have to do the entire street. They would have to go all the way down it and come back in order to get past that. And that really negatively affects the walkability of a neighborhood. And it doesn't take into consideration those mobility issues, either because you have a child who doesn't walk yet, or because you're unable to walk yourself. So, I heard the neighbors talking about it and what they could do about it, and they weren't getting any traction. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm going to see if I can't have this tree cut down and have the sidewalk repaired so that we can have better mobility on the street. And I was like, if I don't get it done, I don't get it done. There's no loss in it for trying. So it took me 18 months and a couple threatening letters legally threatening letters to the city. And then finally the forester called me and was like, well, we don't usually cut down healthy trees, and I was like, just please, get this done. Like, we've been doing this for 18 months over, trees that take away from the community. I'm all for trees, don't get me wrong. Right. But not when that tree, the one tree had actually pushed the sidewalk squares up to the basement windows of a house, and you couldn't open them.
That's disabling.
So it's a safety issue. That took away a way of getting out, and, it's damaging homes. It's damaging the sidewalks, damaging the street. We struggle in lower income and minority communities to get repairs done, to get get maintenance done. So, to leave something there that's going to create a fight for us to have to fight to get repaired later doesn't make any sense. We can always replace it with one of those little lollipop trees. We can take a tree to give a tree. So that's pretty much where it started. And after I got that done, I just picked up one issue after another as they come along. And, the ones that I think I have a solution for, I go after those.
Wow. How do you align the contacts, like who to speak to when you have a suggestion regarding your neighborhood?
So I had to learn that. It took trial and error. It took just interactions, conversations with the different departments, the different people, reaching out to the people I knew might have that answer and getting the answer from them. At this point, I just know where to go. I've been doing this for so long that I just know, what my solution track is and who I need to speak to when to bring them into this, when to go around them, where to go around them. I just have that ability now because it's learned behavior. But it took a little bit in the beginning because, when you try to fight for things like this, they'll ping pong you.
Right.
They'll send you somewhere else, and the next place will be like, it's not here, and they'll send you back. There did come a point where I just started showing up in in the offices and like, I'm not leaving until somebody explains this to me, because you guys sent me here and they sent me back, and everybody's insisting it's you. So
You were saying good morning a
yeah,
couple times. Yeah.
yeah, basically like, hey, I know you didn't take me seriously 5 minutes ago, but now we've met,
Right.
and here's my issue, and from everything I understand, it's your issue. So you and I are going to work together and we're going to get this done.
Right.
Or I'm going to be back.
Writing down
So,
names.
yeah.
That's important. That's important as an advocate for the neighborhood. Overall, what drives you to stand firm in your mission? What kind of emotion towards your community as a whole?
So I can't stand to see people not get what they're entitled to. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel about that person. Like, there is basic equity that needs to be there. And that's what drives me. The ability to bring us closer to equitable is what drives me, because nobody, like, no matter what your situation is, like, because you have to constantly be running to put food on the table doesn't mean you should get less. Like, because you weren't afforded the ability to go to college doesn't mean that you should get less. Like, there's basic stuff that we're all entitled to, and I'm lucky enough to do pretty well in life. Like, I've done well enough that I can donate this time back to the community.
Right.
I'm lucky enough to be educated to the point that I'm capable of, making the arguments and following them through. So, I was given this. It's how I can give back.
Wow, that's empowering. I really wanted to. It was important for me to allow you the space to express the emotion behind the drive to empower the neighborhood and stand, for rights and stand up for equality and the way a community as a whole, a diverse community, should be treated. That's very important. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it is. It like, while I don't ever want to take from other communities, like every community has it, but it pains me when I see them come together and get it done.
Wow.
And then us still, like, lower income communities of color, we're still fighting tonight, and we're not getting it done as quick. Like,
Right.
It's not happening as fast. So while I want them to continue to do that there in their communities, and the nicer communities, I want them to come together and to fight for things that they believe that they should have. That's absolutely how every community should be doing. I want to make sure that we don't get left out, that we don't get services taken from us and given to others because their voices are being heard, or that, we're not making a solid argument and they're finding ways around doing it.
Right.
So it's really important that, in better off communities, there's more people who have that luxury to fight the fight. In our communities where, so many people don't have that luxury, those who are should.
Right.
I found it interesting when we were talking. You do a lot of work on your own, but your actual regular job is actually interesting, and you've done a lot of profound things there too. Can you explain what you actually do? Who you work for? You don't want to talk about that?
So I'm a counselor. I work with victims. I'm a crime victim counselor.
Wow.
Which is difficult, but is also rewarding in itself. It's crazy because, like, I'll have somebody, like, say to me, "Oh, I could never do your job," but then they have a job that I could never do. Like, a teacher will say, "I don't know how you do this," and I'm like, "I don't know how you sit in a class with all these little kids all day." I feel pretty much the same way, even though we have a completely different job, and the outside would look at their job as far more rewarding than mine and far less stressful than mine. For me personally, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I would probably make it like 3 days and be like, I'm done with this. I gotta go somewhere.
So one might say, well, why haven't you run for political office?
So I did I did once. I ran in 2015. I learned a lot from it. I did not win. But I also learned that
Politics.
I hate petitioning. I hate, like, the whole thing is just, it's draining. I found that I spent a lot of time doing that I was taking away from getting things done. Like, you know, to go out and try to have these conversations and there be other people in the race and you have people who are lying and people are doing other things. Like, I can't go to, like, your door and you be like, oh, well, so-and-so said this, and just leave it. I can't leave you with that misinformation. Like, we, especially communities of color, we suffer from misinformation. Like, it's what drags us down all the time. So for me to stand there and just try to convince you, yeah, vote for me, but you're telling me things and I know that I need to take this time to explain to you why it doesn't work like that or how it does actually work, because you're more empowered when I leave is more important to me than trying to convince you to vote for me. Like, I found that I spent a lot of time, like, just having those regular conversations, and that's just not how you campaign. Like, that's not conducive with effective campaigning. But for me, I couldn't know that you had misinformation and just walk away with it and just let you continue without at least trying to explain it. Whatever decision you come to afterwards, that's your decision, but I like to, like, at least go back and forth with some of the reasoning and, explain to you why that's not quite how that works.
So how do you stay solution-based in a society where minorities, we get more opinions than policies?
That's probably why I do a lot of it on my own. It's easier. I know what I'm going for. I know what I'm going after. Or I keep the group that I work on very small. That means that we can identify and work on that issue without a whole bunch of opinions coming in. Or we should do it this way, or we should do it that way, or why didn't you do it this way? We can do it however way is going to work. And that's, maybe we do it wrong the first time, and that's fine. We didn't get it the first time, but we will learn from whatever we did that first time, and we will get it done the next time, or we will just keep trying till we get it done. But I find that when I manage the circle, that's part of it, that, like, actual things happen.
One of the things that I respect about what you do, right? Like, you're like a one woman army. Like, I've never seen you, like, you're not part of an organization. At one point we spoke and I mistitled you as a activist, and you told me, no, I'm not an activist, I'm an advocate. And you broke the difference down for me. And can you, just for the people out there, can you explain to them the difference between an activist and an advocate?
So an activist goes out and they generate the attention to an issue. They make the noise. Like, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So they bring that squeaky wheel up. Like, they make sure that people understand what that problem is. They get it into the households. They get it into the public, because you can't really change things unless the public wants it done. Like, you have to have the people power behind getting things changed. As an advocate, I then take up that issue and all the stuff that needs to be done in the background to get that issue handled. So all those conversations, getting all those people who need to take note that the public is telling you that they want this changed, and into having those conversations as to how it can be changed and what needs to be changed. Does it need to be done by a law? Can it be done just by a change in policy? Or what can we change, like, right now? Like, I know what they're asking for. Like, the people come out and they ask for everything, but what can we change right now? Like, we'll get to changing what they want, and you shouldn't not pay attention to that. But I know we can do X, Y, and Z right now. Let's get those done. Like, that brings us closer to there. So
it's like doing it from the inside as opposed to from the outside.
Right. because I've, over the last decade, I've created those relationships and those the ability to get to those people and have those actual conversations. So when I see an issue, like I can have that conversation immediately, and discuss what I'm hearing from the community, what we may have already been discussing on it, and what can we do like right now? Like what can we start to work on? How can we start to put this together? How can we work to fix this? Because realistically, most of the issues that come out in the public are already stuff that a lot of us at the table we've previously identified. Like, we already know that they're there. We've already had conversations about them. But then, when everybody's yelling for it, that's the time when we finally can get them pushed through.
So besides town meetings, what sources can the community reach out to as an outlet to start their mission on changing a part of their community?
So, I always say, like, people assume that change is difficult, but it's not. And it really just starts with each one of us. The first thing we can all do is just be a community. Like, it's absolutely free to say hello to your neighbors.
Right.
And maybe they don't speak back the first couple of times. Just say hi. Nod, say hi. I mean, I usually nod, but with these masks on, I have to actually make sure I say hello as I'm going. But, just knowing who your neighbors are, it's amazing how that changes how the neighborhood behaves. Like, people start watching out for each other. When you have elderly people, someone's going to notice that they haven't maybe seen them, or, there's concern there. It makes a huge difference to be a neighborhood as opposed to just a resident. So I think that the number one thing that people can do if they want to get involved and change things is just start working on us coming together as a community, because we're not a village anymore, and we need to be. Like, we can't do anything unless we care about those around us. And, that doesn't mean you have to go and put tons of time into it. People don't have that. But again, it takes absolutely like very little effort to just say hello, know the person's name, know who your neighbors are. And, people tend to respect each other better when they do. So that in itself changes the dynamics of that neighborhood.
Right. Can you think of any organization, neighboring organization that will allow an open door policy for the community?
So, like, almost, at least in Albany, every neighborhood has a neighborhood association, which could definitely use some more energy. That's like the number one way to get in there, because those people don't really realize those neighborhood organizations actually do hold a lot of weight if people are using them. Like, if we're utilizing what's there. So, there's usually monthly meetings. There's some technology lag. I think that they're still a little bit behind on the tech. They haven't quite met the younger generation.
Right.
But maybe they just need a younger generation person to come fix that. Like, that's, that could be what you bring to the table. Oh, we don't have a Facebook page? That's easy. Let me make a Facebook page for us. Or I write websites in my free time. Or, there's a whole bunch of things that they could do. But I think that is the quickest and easiest thing to join. It doesn't cost any money. Well, some of them have dues with $5 a year. And that just allows for them to do little events for their neighborhoods and stuff like that. But there's also the opportunity, when we get in my neighborhood, when they're we want to talk to so and so, that person is present at the next meeting.
Right.
Because I'm there. If you want to talk to them, I'm going to get them to come here. So you have the opportunity to get contact with people who can get those people to the table. And, every neighborhood association has somebody with that power.
Right. I agree.
I'm sure when you start kicking up dust, there's certain people that are like, oh, there goes that explicative, you know, talking about this and that. How is it harder as a woman to get even to do what you do?
I don't know that it's harder as a woman.
Because we know most of the people in power are men in government and you know.
I think it's harder as a minority because the people in power do realize that they can usually run us down because there's always so much going on. And even if it doesn't directly affect us, it's affecting our families. Like, there's just always so much going on. Like, and we tend to come from communities that are more nomadic. We tend to not have that strong cohesiveness. So they usually figure they can push it off, like they can put it off long enough for us to just kind of lose steam. Um, because unfortunately, that's usually what happens. So I think that being a minority and coming from a lower income minority community is actually what makes it harder.
Misinformation, tons of misinformation,
Yep.
tons of opinion, tons of the lack of knowledge. I think when it comes to conversation etiquette or writing down information of who you speak to, their position, what department they're in, extension. I think those are important factors when it comes to identifying your direct contact, you know, and understanding, again, opinion versus policy. It can either solve a problem or make it even worse.
And they also, like, they tend to be like, I'll get back to you. They don't actually mean that they're getting
Always.
back to you.
Always.
And if you don't follow up, like, the hope is that in that time that you get caught up in something else
Of course.
and you forget that they were supposed to be getting back to you, so you don't ever get back to them, and the issue just kind of falls.
Yes.
So whereas, especially like if you're talking about like a retirement community, they don't have anything else to do.
Right.
Like, they have not forgotten that you were supposed to get back to them.
Right.
So they know that if they say, I'm going to get back to you, that they're really going to have to, because that person's not going away.
And on time.
Right. So, you know, they definitely take advantage of that. And, you know, I set myself reminders. Like, I got to set myself calendar reminders, like, call so and so back and ask what's going on, because I know I'm not getting the call back.
Right. Right.
You know, over the years it's gotten better because they know that I'm not going away. Like, they're aware that I'm not going away.
Oh, she's not going away.
Yeah, they know I'm not going away. They'd be like, they probably see the phone ring. They'd be like,
And you know
that's
what?
Dannielle, she's not going away.
Most recently, I was up one morning and I saw you on live, and for those who don't know, there's a movie series or a Netflix show being filmed a couple of blocks from you in your actual neighborhood, and I guess the city of Albany was out there towing umpteen cars one morning because I guess the people that live in that neighborhood were supposed to change their parking so that these people can shoot. And I saw you march down to the block, to the set, ask who was in charge, and then you know, they pointed you to, I guess, some police officers that were down there. I saw you walk up to the police officer, him say, "Good morning, Dannielle." Like, he already knew who you were. And what was that about? And you went down there and basically told them, these people need to get their cars returned now. And I was like, wow.
So this is the first time we've ever had to really deal with a movie shoot. And in my opinion, it was not done with the community and like with the community in mind. Grand Street is a largely low income housing street. We also have probably almost a 30% refugee population who are non-English speaking. It's a main through road, like it's a busy road. There's just a lot going on there, and they decided that they would give us a less than a week notice, and that they wouldn't talk to anyone. They blocked off like 9 blocks worth of parking, which in our neighborhood leaves us. We're already, you know, like any of the dense neighborhoods, we're already very low on parking. Like we don't have enough parking to begin with. And it turns out that they did have alternate parking, although that wasn't clear at first, but the alternate parking was like a 14-minute walk away.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park, 231 Green Street and like 219 Green Street. Like, and Grand Street like sits on a flat. It's downhill on one side and uphill on the other. So whether you were walking uphill to your car or from your car, the closest one would have been Lincoln Park, which is like a 9 or 10 minute walk if you walk briskly. And you know, that's not acceptable for a movie shoot. These people, these are these people's homes. Like they basically came and evicted these people from their space so that they could use it to shoot a movie that isn't going to benefit a single person on that street. Like those people aren't going to be extras. They're not going to get paid for this. Like they're inconvenienced, and not like an hour or two. They did this all day. They were there for like 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, like, and there was like no conversation. They didn't reach out to community leaders. They didn't reach out to the neighborhood associations. They talked to the store businesses, like to the couple. We have like 4 businesses in the neighborhood. They did speak to them and offered them money to close the store for the day, but that's not the same as talking to the rest of the community. So, and like, you know, usually when we always have problems when there's no parking signs because there's no parking. Like there's really no alternative. And then usually they're only, you know, it's just a smaller space. But here we have, you know, both sides of, you know, like half a mile of parking that's closed. So, and there's nothing to indicate that there would be some kind of actual emergency.
So everyone was just lost.
Yeah. So they pulled like 20 cars that morning. When I got down there, 11 were already gone. And I just don't think it's just not okay. It's not okay to come and inconvenience a community and then put them in potential financial peril so that you can shoot a movie in their neighborhood. Like, I don't care how cute you think their houses are. Like, first of all, those are not their houses. It's not even like, that's not even their house. That's a house that they rent. And to come here, what if you can't pay to get your car out until next paycheck, which comes next week? By that time, you're not getting your car back from that. Like they've basically set you up to have your vehicle taken by the tow company because you can't afford, by then you can't afford the tow costs and the storage fees and everything else. What if that's like the only money you have to eat? Like what if that's the money that you need in order to keep your lights on, or the money that you need in order to get medication? Like, this is not a valid reason. And, you know, when we have like emergencies, like a water main break, they usually just move the cars. Like they just move them half a block down. Right. But you also there's something that makes it clear that we have an issue. Like, right. You know, there's
signs.
There's heavy equipment, there's right. Stuff going on. So, you know, people are like, oh, this is like a legitimate thing, but what could we possibly need the whole entire street blocked off with? So between the short amount of notice and, you know, signage that just didn't really make much sense. Like, I know what it said, but everyone's like, why would this be blocked off all day? Like, what could they possibly need the street for from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m.? Like, what could they possibly need to do there? Like, there's no heavy equipment. There's no nothing. There's nothing to signify that would be like an emergency, something that would need to be done that also benefits them. Like, if you have a water main broke, it benefits them to lose parking for a little while so that their water is fine. But not for people who are not from the community, that do not look like the community, to come in and film a movie. You know, I got reports from the film crew telling people that they need to stay in their houses, that they had to turn their music down. I understand that they actually put more trash on the street. Like, they didn't pick that street because it was aesthetically nice. They picked it so that they could make it look like crap in a show. Like, they brought zero benefit to the community. Like, none.
And then you close the stores.
And you close the stores, you take all the street parking. Like, you put up confusing information. You're not respectful to the neighbors. Like, there's a ton of stuff. They also supposedly made, they told people that they made a donation to the local organization that's on the street, which did not happen.
Oh, what a great lie.
They were like, they for some reason thought that we didn't communicate, and I'm wondering if that's maybe something that they've encountered in other communities of this demographic. So they were telling the other person that the other person said that they were happy with it. Like, we're all communicating.
Oh, the officer said, "Well, 70% of the
that
people
was,
over
yeah.
here, they're fine with this. They like it."
Yeah, that was the production guy decided that I didn't speak for the community, that he evidently did. And that I didn't know what was going on because he was sure that he could get 70% of the street to be okay with it. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, you don't get to come into our neighborhoods and decide how these communities are treated. And I was not. It took us all day, but they paid for those toes. They paid for all 20 of those toes.
Yeah. When I read the results, I was like, yeah, they better.
Yeah. No, they had better. They weren't getting away with that. Like, you can't just put people in people are already struggling, and you're going to put them in. $165 might not be a lot to some people, but it's a lot when you don't have a lot.
Well, that's a lot if you close a store and I can't drive to the store.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to take a taxi to the store.
I would take a taxi.
Round trip taxi, and then buy dinner. That's half of that check that's supposed to get the car out.
Right.
So then now I'm waiting for the next check, and now it's accumulated a bigger fine.
Yep.
How nice.
Yep.
And your car was fine. I thought it was dope that you just really cared about
my car was
other
fine.
people, what other people could be going through. They could have been late for work that day. They could have lost their job that day because they didn't show up. You know what I mean? And like you said, in the middle of a pandemic, $200 could set somebody back.
Way back. That could be like what crushes them. So it just, like, I am not okay with people taking advantage of my community. That's just not going to fly. It doesn't matter if I'm directly impacted. Like, that's my community. That's where I live. That's where I've made home. And impacting part of it impacts me, even if it's not directly. So, if they get away with doing it here, they'll get away with doing it other places, and they'll just continue. They'll just harm. And, it's not even that, like, I'm not against movies being shot here. I think that there is a way that they can be done right, and they can actually benefit the community. There are ways that they could have had conversation with us, that the community could have gotten equity out of it. But to just drop it in our laps and be like, well, we don't care, we want to do this, so you have to take it. That's not how these things work. And, they should not expect to be able to do that just because of the community's demographic. Like, they should not expect that that's going to happen.
You did a great job. That could not have been me. I am sorry. I think that if I had to approach someone and ask a question and they gave me an answer that I was still uncomfortable with, my arms would have started twitching a little bit.
They were. Well, they were.
Did a great job.
So what else is on the table that you're really trying to fight for right now?
So,
anything in particular?
I don't have anything in particular. I am working on a community calendar that should allow everybody in every organization in Albany to post their upcoming events to one single calendar that'll service the entire city. This way, it'll give people like one place that they can go to find out what's coming up. Because I know, we do the best that we can to share stuff, but it's like all over the place. We tend to step on each other's feet, not intentionally, but because I didn't know you were doing something this day, and
that's important.
I've already put all this into it, so it's already too late, or I find out afterwards on something I would have gone to, or we have like food giveaways and stuff like that, and and the people that really need it may not know about it because it's going out through all these other channels. So, I have some language to write for that calendar, and then I'm hoping that no later than the beginning of the year, we should have like a full community calendar that everybody can use.
Shout out to my man Musa Zwana, because he was trying to do that 4 years ago at the Grand Street Community Center there. He was trying to have a calendar put there because he felt like even in the entertainment world, a lot of us do, things on the same night. When I was involved with Justice House organization, we were having our meetings the same night as Black Lives Matter, and it was basically splitting up a bunch of people that could have all been in the same room. So I think that's a profound thing to do.
Yeah, we've been talking about that in Albany for as long as I can remember, and it just has never come through. And I think I've figured out the solution. We'll see. I actually have a solution and a backup. So I think that this time we're gonna have a calendar, like for real.
Well, Faces of the 518, we're going to keep our eye on Dannielle Hille and what she's doing continuously in the community. And we thank you for coming to grace our second episode, because, here we want to at least not just spotlight entertainment and all the fun stuff, but we want to be able to talk to advocates, activists, politicians. We want people to get jewels from this show and also learn what's happening in the community around you. So we appreciate you coming on the show. And hopefully, like, you'll be successful in all your other endeavors. So far, I've seen you tackle things and get them done, and that's essentially what we need.
Yes, we do.
So, you got anything else, America?
I think I wanted to say that being that the wintertime is coming, and this has been a concern of mine for the last couple of years, I've noticed how some hospital facilities do not fully remove the snow. So which makes patients that try to get to the hospital via bus or a taxi or walking have to walk on the street to get to the hospital entrance. Based on that concern, outside, besides a suggestion box, what would you suggest someone with that concern do?
Call Buildings and Code, because if they haven't had it, they do have a grace period to get the snow removed, and if it's not removed, they can be fined for it. But if it's becoming a continuous issue, that's definitely something that Buildings and Codes can have direct contact with their higher up, and express and be like, this is we're getting a lot of calls about this. Like, this is something that has to be addressed because it's an ongoing problem. So I'd say Buildings and Codes would be who would handle that.
Awesome. You're definitely an asset to the community. I think in my head, I think I would have came up with, give me the chief of medicine, something like that. Give me the doctor or the security of the facility. But, he can't do anything, but thank you for that information.
Absolutely.
And thank you for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And me shout out my man Tyler over there on the boards. He been doing a great job today. Marika also, shout out. Amel in the room doing what they do. This episode of Faces of 518 is brought to you by Jabs Barbershop. That's 1839 Central Ave, Colony, New York. Go get your fades, your razor cuts, your hot towels. If you anywhere between Schenectady and you don't want to go all the way down to downtown Albany, or if you're between Schenectady and Albany and you're driving to another town, go check out my man Jay Allen. He's the owner. Jabs Barbershop, 1839 Central Ave, Colony, New York, right in the plaza there. And tell him Wiz sent you. He gonna take care of you. All right, y'all. This concludes our episode for today. We'll see y'all next week.